The Minneapolis police officer who shot and killed Justine Damon in July has yet to speak about the case, but tonight, for the first time, you will see body cam video of Officer Mohammed Noor in action during another incident.
This one is now part of a lawsuit in federal court. At issue is the power of the police to take away someone's rights. Fox 9 investigator Jeff Ballion has the exclusive.
I'm hot, Sarge.
The police reports describe it as a welfare check, a door knock to see if a person's okay.
There was no check the welfare. These people had no interest in my health whatsoever.
Hi. What are you doing at my home?
Hi, Teresa.
You called us for help or something.
Did Minneapolis officers arrive at Teresa Graham's door to rescue her from herself?
I didn't call you.
Or, as her lawsuit claims, did they come to retaliate against her full-throated complaints that the MPD ignores safety concerns?
I want you to listen. Get out of my property now. Come here. Come here. How dare you? Come here.
Put the phone down.
Hello, help.
I think what these people did was reprehensible.
Graham was detained by 3 officers who forced their way into her home without a warrant. Among the 3, Mohammed Noor, who 7 weeks after this incident would shoot and kill Justine Damon while responding to a 911 call just a few blocks from Graham's house.
I think we need to have you checked out. For what? I think that you're in a mental health crisis.
Well, I'm not in a mental health crisis.
I think that you are.
Sergeant Shannon Barnett ordered an ambulance to take Graham, against her will, to a hospital for a psychiatric evaluation.
I have legal rights.
And right now, I'm taking them away from you, and I'm putting you on a health and welfare hold.
For what?
State law gives police officers the power to put a hold on someone if they believe that person is a threat to themselves or others.
We're more concerned about your welfare.
Oh, you are so full of bullshit. I am not a danger to myself or anybody else.
Graham spent a career as a licensed independent clinical social worker and school social worker. Now in retirement, she still considers herself an advocate. She's criticized law enforcement for not doing enough to crack down on crimes against vulnerable adults.
What a mess that whole system is and how it needs to be addressed for everybody in the community.
On the day of the incident with police, Graham made a 911 call in the morning about a stranger in the alley behind her house.
I just backed my car out of the garage, and he is obviously on drugs. He's smoking marijuana.
Graham says she moved her car to the front of the house and went inside to wait for a squad to arrive. She says she never saw one after an hour, then had to leave for a medical appointment. Later that afternoon, she called the 5th Precinct to find out what, if anything, had come of her 911 call in the morning. She also fired off some emails to city officials to complain about a lack of police response to some vulnerable adult reports she'd filed involving the care of a relative.
At 8:20 p.m., I heard a knock on the door.
That evening, officers Mohammed Noor and Amanda Sanchez showed up at Graham's house. It would be the first of 2 encounters they'd have in a matter of hours.
And I thought they were finally responding to the call that I had made that morning. I was a little late, but they weren't.
According to police reports, they were dispatched because an anonymous caller, claiming to be a cousin of Graham's, contacted 911 to say she'd been making threats against him and his family.
It was accusing me, which really upset me and angered me.
A portion of this encounter was recorded on Officer Sanchez's body cam. Officer Noor apparently did not have his camera on.
Who called you?
Graham goes to grab her cell phone to take pictures of the officer.
Okay, who called you?
My partner's checking.
Officer Noor returns from the squad car a few moments later.
Okay.
So, we don't know anything about that.
I thought maybe you were finally showing up about the stranger that was smoking dope.
No, we're showing
on my
up because
property.
you were harassing or making
I
threats
have
to one of
harassed
your
nobody.
family member, and my partner's about to tell you who it is.
Okay.
Ma'am, we have someone called, and that's why we're responding here.
Who
But
are you talking
we
about?
apologize that we disturbed you. Have a nice evening, okay?
Bye.
After the 2 officers left, Graham called 911 to complain.
How dare you harass me at my home when you didn't even show up at 9:56 a.m. today when I called 911 to report somebody who was using drugs on my property? You people are beyond bizarre. And I want a call from the Minneapolis Police Department Inspector Kathy Waite now.
A sergeant did call Graham back, We don't have a recording of that call, so we don't know what was said. Graham claims the sergeant was dismissive of her concerns.
9:43 p.m., I heard kind of a commotion at the door.
The commotion was the return of Officers Noor and Sanchez, and this time they were accompanied by their sergeant.
What are you doing at my home?
Hi, Teresa.
You called us for help or something.
I didn't call you.
Are you sure?
Hi, Teresa. I'm Sergeant Barnett. We talked on the phone.
I didn't call you.
We talked on the phone about a half hour
You
ago.
identify these people right now.
She's gonna get her phones. She's gonna record us.
511.
Don't you dare try and open my door. This is my home.
Okay.
Get off my property now.
Graham grabs her phone again and calls 911.
Okay, Teresa. What are they doing? Get them off of my property now. It's harassment.
The officers proceed to remove the screen from Graham's door. Then they start knocking continuously.
If you open up the door and talk to us, we'll leave.
The impasse continues for about 3 minutes.
I want you to listen. Get off of my property now. Here. Come here. How dare you?
The sergeant tells Graham that a squad did check on her morning complaint about the stranger in the alley.
So what has that got to do with anything?
Nothing. You don't think that the cars responded. That's why you're so angry, you said. And I said a squad did drive by.
Graham admits she was agitated, but says she did nothing that demonstrated she was a danger to herself or others. A doctor who evaluated her at the hospital that night determined she was not holdable, and she was released.
He says it did seem really bizarre for the police to use the mental health statutes to go after someone because they found them annoying.
The MPD says it cannot comment because a lawsuit has been filed in this case. None of the officers involved would comment either. We asked Steve Wickelgren, a therapist and former Minneapolis cop who trains officers in crisis intervention, to grade the way this incident was handled.
The decision, I agree with. How it was handled, probably a B.
Wickelgren says officers could have been more empathetic, but he believes it was appropriate to place Graham on a hold and let a medical expert decide if she needed help.
She wasn't posing any problems with anybody other than she was mad. And that's not a reason to bring a person in for health and for welfare check.
Don Betzold is an attorney who's an expert on civil commitment cases. He's also a former state senator who was involved in passing mental health legislation.
She's out in public yelling and screaming. That might have been more cost to bring her in than if she's in her own home and she's just agitated.
We also showed the videos to a prominent psychologist who preferred not to be named in this story. He says if the officers truly felt Graham was a threat, why did they allow her to leave their site as she got her phone? She could have been going to get a gun.
I think it was pretty clear that they were peeved at me, and that had just an attitude that kind of like they were going to teach me a lesson.
Graham's lawsuit accuses the police of violating her constitutional rights by entering her house without permission and holding her against her will without just cause. By the way, she also got a $3,000 bill for the trip to the hospital. I'm Fox 9 investigator Jeff Ballion.